Her Majesty's Prison Pentridge was an Australian prison that was first established in 1851 in Coburg, Victoria. The first prisoners arrived in 1851. The prison officially closed on 1 May 1997. Pentridge was often referred to as the Bluestone College, Coburg College, or College of Knowledge. The grounds were originally landscaped by renowned landscape gardener Hugh Lineker. The site is currently split into two parts. The northern part of the prison, referred to as the Pentridge Coburg or Pentridge Piazza site, is bordered by Champs Street, Pentridge Boulevard, Murray Road and Stockade Avenue. It is currently under development by the developer Share Group, who has owned the site since 2013. The southern part of the prison, referred to as the Pentridge Village site, is bordered by Pentridge Boulevard, Stockade Avenue, Warden's Walk and Urquhart Street. It is currently owned by the developer Future Estate. Divisions. The prison was split into many divisions, named using letters of the alphabet. A. Short and long-term prisoners of good behavior, but during the late 1980s till its closure it became a scene of many monthly bashings, stabbings and bludgeonings. B. Long-term prisoners with behavior problems. C. Vagabonds and short-term prisoners, where Ned Kelly was imprisoned. D. Remand prisoners. E. The hospital, later turned into a dormitory division housing short-term prisoners. F. Remand and short-term. G. Psychiatric problems. H. High security, discipline and protection. J. Young offenders group, later for long-term with record of good behavior. Jika, maximum security risk and for protection, later renamed K Division. Panopticons in 2014. Archaeological work in the former prison grounds led to the discovery of 3 rare panopticons located near the A and B divisions that were built of bluestone in the 1850s. The first uncovered and excavated was to the north of A Division and was built of bluestone in the 1850s. The circular design, with walls coming out from the center, created wedge-shaped airing yards where prisoners would be permitted access for 1 hour per day without coming into contact with each other. The panopticons fell out of use due to prison overcrowding and were largely demolished in the early 1900s. The panopticons were based on the design concepts of British philosopher and social reformer Jeremy Bentham. The footings of the first panopticon that was excavated and uncovered is located to the north of A Division and remains relatively intact. The excavation and uncovering of the other 2 panopticons next to B Division only revealed the remains of its rubble footings. Jika High Security Unit. Jika opened in 1980 at a cost of $7 million Australian dollars, was a jail within a jail, maximum security section, designed to house Victoria's hardest and longest-serving prisoners. It was awarded the Excellence in Concrete Award by the Concrete Institute of Australia before being closed 8 years later, amidst controversy after the deaths of 5 prisoners in 1987. The design of Jika was based on the idea of 6 separate units at the end of radiating spines. The unit comprised electronic doors, closed-circuit TV and remote locking, designed to keep staff costs to a minimum and security to a maximum. The furnishings were sparse and prisoners exercised in aviary-like escape-proof yards. In 1983, 4 prisoners escaped from escape-proof Jika, when 2 prison officers were disciplined in relation to the Jika escape. A week-long strike occurred. 1987 Jika prison fire. Inmates Robert Wright, Jimmy Lonan, Arthur Gallagher, David McGawley and Ricky Morris from one side of the unit, and Craig Slim Minogue and 3 other inmates on the other side sealed off their section doors with a tennis net. Mattresses and other bedding were then stacked against the doors. The windows in the day room were then covered with paper so the prison officers couldn't identify which prisoners caused the ensuing damage. Prisoners Robert Wright, Jimmy Lonan, Arthur Gallagher, David McGauley and Ricky Morris died in the fire. Convicted Russell Street bomber Craig Minogue and 3 other inmates survived as they were evacuated when the fire started. Prison works. In 1851, an ad hoc group of structures built by prison labor using local materials existed. None of these structures survived, other than the boundaries of the prison that were established. The second phase of construction, undertaken in the late 1850s and early 1860s, was the construction of Inspector General William Champ's model prison complex, based on British and American precedents. In 1924, Pentridge replaced the Melbourne jail as the main remand and reception prison for the metropolitan area. In 1929, Melbourne jail was closed and its prisoners relocated to Pentridge. The Victorian government confirmed its intention to close Pentridge and replace it with 2 new male prisons, each accommodating around 600 prisoners, in December 1993. In April 1995, the Office of Corrections ordered that the 6 main towers at Pentridge be closed, since most of the high-security prisoners from the jail had been relocated to Barwon as part of the downgrading of Pentridge to a medium-security prison. The prison was finally closed in 1997 and sold by the state government of Victoria. Since the site was closed, almost all of the buildings identified as being of no significance in the 1996 Pentridge Conservation Management Plan prepared by Alam Lovell and AMP Associates have been demolished with the approval of Heritage Victoria. The remaining heritage buildings and landmarks of significance, including A, B, E and H divisions, B Annex, Pentridge's iconic entrance, the administration building, the warden's quarters, the rock-breaking yards, the guard towers, posts and the wall surrounding the site have been retained and will undergo restoration works to ensure the stability and preservation into the future. The site as a whole is also classified as a place of state significance by the National Trust of Australia. The National Trust has adopted the levels of significance identified in the 1996 CMP. Future of the site. A number of the iconic heritage building landmarks on the site are located at the Pentridge Coburg site. The heritage features of these landmarks are protected and will be retained and integrated into a new community precinct that will feature a mix of housing types, retail, public open space and open piazza as set out in the Pentridge Coburg Design Guidelines and Master Plan of February 2014. This document forms part of the Moreland Planning Scheme and was approved by the Hon. Matthew Guy, the Victorian Minister for Planning between December 2010 to December 2014. A similar master plan exists for the Pentridge village site. The National Trust has expressed strong concerns about the nature of these master plans, which involves building high-density high-rise between the historic divisions. In 2016, Shea Group revealed plans for a new urban village to revitalize Pentridge Prison and breathe new life into the historical asset. This includes up to 20 new buildings designed to complement the existing heritage landmarks and numerous community spaces as well as public amenities including an open piazza, forecourt areas and public open space including landscaped gardens as set out in the Pentridge Coburg Master Plan. Shea Group also revealed its plans to invest several $1 million to restore the roof of A division, the 7 guard towers on site and the rock-breaking yards. These restoration works are anticipated to be completed by late 2018. Gravesites. The gravesite of bushranger Ned Kelly formerly lay within the walls of Pentridge Prison, while Ronald Ryan's remains have been returned to his family. Kelly was executed by hanging at the Melbourne jail in 1880 and his remains moved to Pentridge Prison in 1929, after his skeleton was disturbed on 12 April 1929 by workmen constructing the present Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology building. Peter Norden, a former prison chaplain at Pentridge Prison, has campaigned for the site's restoration. As of 2011, most of the bodies have been exhumed by archaeologists and have either been reinterred in the original cemetery near D Division, are awaiting identification at the Melbourne morgue, or have been returned to the families. In 2011, Ned Kelly's remains were once again exhumed and returned to his surviving descendants for a proper family burial. The identified remains of Kelly did not include most of his skull. DNA testing also established another complete skull believed to be Kelly's was not in fact his. Executions. David Bennett, the 26th of September 1932. Arnold Carl Soderman, the 1st of June 1936. Edward Cornelius, the 26th of June 1936. Thomas Johnson, the 3rd of January 1939. George Green, the 17th of April 1939. Alfred By, the 22nd of December 1941. Eddie Leonsky, the 9th of November 1942. Jean Lee, the 19th of February 1951. Norman Andrews, the 19th of February 1951. Robert David Clayton, the 19th of February 1951. Ronald Joseph Ryan, the 3rd of February 1967. Last execution. Ronald Ryan was the last man executed at Pentridge Prison and in Australia. Ryan was hanged in D Division at 8.00 on the 3rd of February 1967 after being convicted of the shooting death of a prison officer during a botched escape from the same prison. Later that day, Ryan's body was buried in an unmarked grave within the D Division prison facility. Notable prisoners: Dennis Allen, oldest member of the Pettingill family. Gary David, also known as Gary Webb, responsible for the Community Protection Act 1990. Peter Dupas, Australian serial killer. Keith Foray, convicted of murdering Lewis Kane and Lewis Moran with Evangelos Goussis during the Melbourne gangland killings, was also the basis for the character of Key the George in the film Chopper. Christopher Dale Flannery, a.k.a. Mr. Rent-A-Kill, hit-in man. Kevin Albert Joyner, murderer, shot dead trying to escape in 1952. Ned Kelly, a bushranger. Julian Knight, murdered 7 people in the Hoddle Street Massacre. Shelton Lee, poet. Eddie Leonsky, the Brownout Strangler. Craig Slim Minogue, the Russell Street Bomber. Clary O'Shea, a trade unionist. Victor Pearce, a member of the Pettingill family, acquitted of the 1988 Walsh Street police shootings. Killed in 2002. Harry Power, a bushranger. Mark Chopper Reed, a gang leader and standover man. Gregory David Roberts, author of Shantaram, escapee of Pentridge who fled to India. Ronald Ryan, the last person to be executed in Australia. Frank Penhaluriak, in the 1980s due to trading hours activism. Maxwell Carl Skinner, constant escapee, infamous for commandeering a Coburg tram in one of his escapes. William Stanford, a sculptor. Stan Taylor, an actor and convicted Russell Street bomber. Squizzy Taylor, a gangster. John Zub, the first person to be found guilty of having failed to comply with his call-up notice during the Vietnam War. Timeline: 1851 Her Majesty's Prison Pentridge established. 1929 Melbourne jail closed and its prisoners relocated to Pentridge. 1951 Last woman executed in Australia. Jean Lee is hanged. 1967 Last person to be executed in Australia, Ronald Ryan. 1987 5 prisoners die in a fire in Jika during riots over prison conditions. Craig Minogue and 3 other inmates survived the fire. 1997 Pentridge is closed. 1999 The state government of Victoria sells Pentridge to developers Luciano Crema and Harry Barban in partnership with Peter and Leaky Alvaroli. 2002 Pentridge is split into Pentridge Piazza, controlled by Luciano Crema and Harry Barban, and Pentridge Village, controlled by Peter and Leaky Alvaroli. 2007 Luciano Crema and Harry Barban sells the Pentridge Coburg site to developers Valid Property Group and Aberdeen Group. 2009 Pentridge Coburg Master Plan and Pentridge Village Master Plan are approved by the Victorian Planning Minister following an extensive period of consultation. 2013 The Valid Property Group sells the Pentridge Coburg site to developer Share Group. 2014 A revision to the Pentridge Coburg Master Plan is approved by the Victorian Planning Minister. 2015 Chiavaroli sells the Pentridge Village site to Future Estate. Share Group commences construction of the Horizon Apartments at the northeast corner of the Pentridge Coburg site. 2016 Share Group rebrands and unveils the Pentridge Coburg site as Pentridge and opens the iconic gates to the public, hosting a community open day and the prison's first public historical and interactive art exhibition, Pentridge Unlocked. Share Group also commences the restoration works on the roof of A Division, the guard towers and the rock-breaking yards. Escapes. 1851 Frank Gardner, one of 15 to escape the day. 1899 Pierre Dewa suicided after recapture. 1901 Mr. Sparks never heard of again. 1901 John O'Connor caught in Sydney 2 weeks later. 1926 J.K. Monson caught several weeks later in W.A. 1939 George Thomas Howard caught after 2 days. 1940 K.R. Jones caught in Sydney 2 weeks later. 1951 Victor Franz caught next day. 1952 Kevin Joyner shot dead escaping. 1952 Maxwell Skinner pushed off prison wall, broke leg. 1957 William O'Malley caught after 15 minutes. 1957 John Henry Taylor caught after 15 minutes. 1961 Morris Watson caught next day. 1961 Gordon Hutchinson caught next day. 1965 Ronald Ryan caught in Sydney 19 days later. 1965 Peter Walker caught in Sydney 19 days later. 1972 Dennis Dennehy. 1972 Gary Smedley. 1972 Alan Mansell. 1972 Henry Carlson. 1973 Harold Peckman caught next day. 1974 Edward Jockey Smith. 1974 Robert Hughes. 1974 George Carter. 1976 John Charles Walker. 1977 David Keyes. 1977 Peter James Dawson and 3 others. 1980 Gregory David Roberts escaped in broad daylight with Trevor Jolly and subsequently went to India after a brief period in New Zealand. 1980 Trevor Jolly. 1982 Harry Richard Nylander. 1987 Dennis Mark Quinn recaptured in New Zealand 19 days later. Usage in media. The front gate showing the HM Prison Pentridge sign is featured on the cover of Australian band Airborne's debut album Runnin' Wild, Episode 2, Homecomings, of the 1976 ABC TV adaptation of Frank Hardy's novel Power Without Glory features John West picking his brother Frank West up from Pentridge Prison after serving 12 years for rape. The 1988 John John Hillcoat and Evan English film Ghosts of the Civil Dead was largely based on events which occurred in Pentridge Prison's infamous Jika maximum security prison during the lead-up to the 1987 fire. The 1994 Australian film Every Night. Every Night details prison life inside Pentridge's H Division. The 2000 Andrew Dominic film Chopper was partially filmed in H Division. In the 1997 Australian film The Castle, Wayne was a prisoner of HM Prison Pentridge.